Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pierce. This is Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 4th of July 2024. Let's get straight to it. I'm going to try and whistle through this. I spent far too long on the first video. European NATO members strike a deal to buy up 1,000 Patriot missiles, according to Reuters. Now, this is a collaboration, a coalition of countries getting together to say, so it includes Germany, Netherlands, Romania, Spain, to buy 1,000 Patriot air defense missiles. The Ukrainians are absolutely chomping through their air defense missiles, as you can imagine at the moment, because the Russians are firing huge waves of missiles, both ballistic and cruise missiles at Ukraine, as well as Shahed drones. And so therefore, one of the biggest requirements for the Ukrainians at the moment isn't just air defense systems, it's air defense munitions. What's worth also mentioning is this, and I was wondering about this only the other day, and it's come out now. So General Nave about the effectiveness of mobile fire groups, and I'm presuming these are not, I don't know whether they include things like Stingers, the Avenger systems, whether that's like the short-range manpad style rockets or missiles, released off the back of a technical or Humvee or whatever, or whether this is just like machine guns and the ZU or anti-aircraft heavy gun, whether it's stuff like that. But 8 out of 17 destroyed drones and 11 out of 48 destroyed missiles on January the 2nd were from mobile air defense fire groups. This is massively important because when you're going back to talk about the usage of NASAMS, of SAMP-T, of Patriot and their very expensive missiles, if it wasn't for these guys going out and taking 8 out of 17 drones, that's half the drones, and that's a quarter of the missiles, then they would have to be picked up by really expensive air defense systems. This is massively important and actually really good news. That's higher than I thought it would be. As part of me that's thinking, yeah, we occasionally see footage of some of these cannons taking out the drones and missiles, but you're thinking that's a bit of a rarity, and actually, they're not as effective as you like them to be. It's a bit of a pipe dream to be able to shoot this stuff. No, they are being really quite effective, as according to those stats. So that's really good news. Okay. Reuters saying Norway will send 2 F-16 fighter jets and instructors to help train Ukrainian pilots in Denmark. That's really good news. Lots of countries coming together to provide that training and the equipment for the Ukrainian Air Force and the F-16s. Slovakia and Hungary are quietly bolstering Ukraine's defenses despite political rhetoric. Defense firms in both Slovakia and Hungary are quietly aiding Ukraine's military through weapons contracts and sales. Business motives override anti-Ukrainian political stances. Right, this is worth popping into. I know it will extend my news piece a little bit, but this is really important analysis. Slovakia and Hungary quietly bolster Ukraine's defenses despite political rhetoric is the name of the article in Euromaidan Press. In Slovakia, the stance of the newly elected government under Fico has shifted noticeably. Before the elections, the government firmly stated, quote, "We will never provide Ukraine with any weapons." Such a significant, words are important, right? Such a significant shift this. However, following the elections, the position has softened to a more nuanced, "We will not supply the weapons that are in storage." In other words, we're very happy to produce weapons because our factories will then be working and you can pay us money and we're going to be making money and you can have all the weapons you like if you pay for them. In fact, the new weapons produced in Slovakia, for example, Susanna howitzers and ammunition, can and will be in Ukraine because of existing contracts. This also applies to the agreements on joint production. If Slovakia wants to remain a reliable partner in the world defense market. So if Slovakia want an active and profitable defense industry, then Ukraine is their best route into eking out further sways of the international defense market. So another anti-Ukrainian government of Orban's Hungary also rapidly ramps up defense production in cooperation with German Rheinmetall and other regional partners. So actually Rheinmetall is very much involved with Hungarian defense manufacturing, and that's a really good thing because Rheinmetall are well behind Ukraine, and so that will, by kind of not by osmosis but necessarily, will have an impact on Hungarian positioning. Even though those weapons won't go to Ukraine in the short term, some will eventually replenish European stockpiles that are already in deficit. This will also help maintain Ukraine's military aid at a high level during 2024, providing crucial capabilities in addition to those already contracted by the Ukrainian government at the expense of nearly all tax money available in the budget. Actually, in the short term, some of those things will go. So Hungary is producing some of the AFVs that are going to be going to Ukraine, as I understand it, through Rheinmetall. Anyway, talking about Slovakia, here's a quote. Certainly, it would not be rational for the current government to meddle with this because it will cost jobs and money, including sanctions for the failure to perform contracts. Moreover, it would damage heavily the reputation of Slovakia as a reliable partner. Therefore, rhetorics before elections and after elections can differ greatly. Ain't that always the case? Here's our manifesto. Oh, we're in power now. Yeah, forget that. We're just going to do what we always thought we were going to do, but we just didn't tell you. Right, state-owned constructor Defence, which produces famous Susanna howitzers, increased its year-on-year sales by 33% to 84.6 million euros in 2022. Its net profit increased 921% from less than 1.4 million euros in 2021 to almost 14 million euros in 2022. Money does make war does make money for the defense military industrial complex, but don't think that they are going out into the world and starting to wage wars, because actually they make more money off R&D and stuff in peacetime than they do in constructing weaponry. Like the markup is, although it can be quite significant, isn't the biggest selling sort of stuff. When they do these long-term projects, that's what makes them their money. Like the F-35, these endless money pits of R&D before they actually get to make them, and then they eventually sell them. But these are usually things done outside of war zones and war times. Anyway, that's just to put pay to the common misconception that the defense and military industrial complex is kind of stoking wars, is partly responsible for Ukraine being at war. No, Russia invaded it. That's all you need to know. Okay. So the S Holding, which is part of the BMD Group, of joint stock company and a state majority, invested 30 million euros only in 2023 to increase its ammunition production. For 2023, the production plan was set at a level of 50,000 shells per year, and it is projected to grow to 150,000 shells in 2025. In addition, there's a growing production of the famous demining system Bodzena, which is also crucial for Ukraine. So good stuff there. Another quote: for the success of such endeavor, one can't avoid the business logic behind it. It becomes possible only with solid multi-year contracts, because only contracts will provide stability and predictability for enterprises to secure investments. This is what I was talking about yesterday with regard to how the US has been able to ramp up shell production much more quickly than Europe, is because its shell production facilities are still state-owned, and therefore they're not dependent on really long-term contracts that give you stability. So we're not going to buy capital in to build this stuff and to get the metal turning and to, you know, all this equipment that we're going to need to make this kind of stuff. We need orders that are going to last for 5 years. So we need a 5-year contract if you're a private corporation, right? Whereas if you're the state manufacturer, it's like the government say, we're at war, or like they're at war and they're our ally, and we're going to provide them with stuff. So you're going to make that, and we're going to do it in 2 years, over a 2-year period. Yeah, but what about long-term sustainability? Don't give a frick. This is a geopolitical necessity, and we're the government, and we own you, and that's what you're going to do. So oddly enough, although the private sector is often seen as far more reactive and agile, in this particular case, actually state-owned enterprises are far more likely to be able to react quickly to the needs of a warring nation. And it's like that's why Europe's been slower, because they've got fewer state-owned, it appears, actual shell manufacturers. but that ramping up will come, but it requires a commitment, a much longer term commitment from governments for contracts. Going on to Hungary, for example, Hungary joined a regional cooperation program to develop and produce a German tank KF-51 at the Zalaegerszeg factory in Hungary. The development contract worth 288 million euros was signed on the 15th of December 2023, so very recently. Rheinmetall is cooperating in a project with the state-owned Hungarian holding company N7, which holds a 49% stake in the joint venture Rheinmetall Hungary. This might be where the private sector can be very politically useful. Like, you might ask, why Rheinmetall setting up in Hungary? That's a bit of a political melting pot. Okay, cheap labor maybe. Okay, cheap energy, so on and so forth. That's going to be a major reason, really. But you wonder whether there's some political, setting up in Hungary would be good, because actually you can start bending Hungary's arms, geopolitically speaking, militarily, strategically speaking, in a way that politically we can't, because Orban kind of shuts us off. But if this is all about making money in Hungary, and that can then be used for the aims of the EU that Rheinmetall will be aligning to, then there's some interesting thinking to be done there. 5 years ago, there was not much beyond the production of some small arms, military trucks, and electronic warfare in Hungary. In 2022, there are 3 major new factories, including the production of most modern IFVs, while by 2027, the construction of all 10 new factories will be completed. The assembly of IFVs, the Lynx, so this is Rheinmetall's Lynx, and this is what I think are going to be produced for Ukraine, has already started in Western Hungary in 2023. So where it says that it's coming down the road and it's not going to be straight away, actually I think the Lynx will be one of those. Also, by 2027, Hungary will be one of the biggest producers of 155mm artillery shells in NATO. The factory for shells is almost ready and will start working in the first months of 2024. It will contribute to the production of shells. So this is where you're looking at what will the EU be able to produce for Ukraine. Actually, if that comes online in sort of February, then you're going to eke out some of those million shells before the end of March, which was the kind of like, we'll give you 1 million by March. In a year. It will contribute to the production of shells, which are currently a big problem in Europe. EU promised 1 million shells for Ukraine in 2023, but delivered only 300,000. That was 300,000 back in November time, I think it was. So I think it's gone up by then, but people keep quoting that one. The Hungarian government also purchased the Hindenburger defense. There's other ones I'm missing out a load, which is one of the best manufacturers of mortars worldwide. Mortars proved to be important in the Russo-Hungarian War, along with 155mm shells. Finally, Hungary acquired 80% of Aero Vodochody, which is a Czech aerospace company. It will continue production in the Czech Republic, but together with Hungary. Private investors are also involved, such as Beretta Company, which produces NATO small arms and ammunition, and Dynamit Nobel, which will produce anti-tank weapons in Hungary. In total, the 10-year program involves $20 billion in investments. Quote, it was never said that the weapons produced in Hungary cannot go to Ukraine. It was only said that Hungarian weapons in the military stock would not go to Ukraine. So same as Slovakia. Now, if it is a weapon made in Hungary in cooperation with Rheinmetall, and if it goes to Poland and replenishes Polish 155mm rounds, which go to Ukraine, then it de facto helps Ukraine. Attila said, who's a Hungarian analyst, claiming that even if current Orban's government is characterized by anti-Ukrainian rhetoric, it doesn't mean that the Hungarian defense production won't help NATO and at least indirectly Ukraine. This is really important stuff. This really important. Okay, government spokesperson Sprecher today, according to German aid to Ukraine, Germany has delivered what is possible in terms of air defense. Limiting factor is the production, and talks are underway with other governments to put their orders on hold so that Ukraine can be supplied first. This is really important. So they've got contracts with other governments to say, right, we're going to produce, I don't know what it is, NASAMS missiles or Patriot missiles or whatever, SAMP-T, well, actually, IRIS-T, more likely. Actually, can we put you on hold because you're not at war, and can we provide all these for Ukraine? As far as production is concerned, I can say that in terms of air defense, the production capacities are currently 1 to 1.5 TRML-4D per month. 4 to 8 IRIS-T SLM per year. So those are the medium-range missile systems. 500 IRIS-T and IRIS-T SL missiles per year. So 4 to 8 systems, 500 missiles. As far as talks with foreign governments are concerned, he's certainly talking about governments that have ordered IRIS-T SLM systems via the ESSI, European Sky Shield Initiative. These are, for example, Lithuania, Latvia, and Austria. Other countries are in talks about procuring the system. Regarding the success, he is talking about the first Ukrainian IRIS-T SLM system, and I believe the second was intended for Egypt, for example, which is why it can be seen in Ukraine with the special sand camo. Only the third IRIS-T SLM system was delivered to Ukraine in a green color. So interesting stuff going on there. That's the Egyptian version there, and the green one here. So anyway, interesting stuff from German aid to Ukraine. No report says the government of Ukraine plans to increase the production of Ukrainian defense production in 2024 sixfold. In 2024, Ukraine plans to spend more than 265 billion hryvnias, $7 billion on the purchase, production and repair of weapons, Prime Minister Shmyhal announced. He also said that Ukraine is to reduce the need for external financing in 2024. So that's good news. They will need over $37 billion in external financing in 2024. So a lot of propping up, which is around $5 billion less than the country received from foreign partners last year, romoving in the right direction. Now, Mickey Rourke, Hollywood actor, it seems a long time since 9.5 weeks, doesn't it? Mickey Rourke is raising $1 million for the reconstruction of buildings in Kherson. Awesome stuff. He's like the one-man band Denmark to Mykolaiv. What Denmark is to Mykolaiv, Mickey Rourke maybe to Kherson, although, $1 million won't go quite as far. But still, that's really, really cool. Okay, a few things from John Kirby. Again, I've already referred to him today. Some bad news and then a bit of good news. The US has run out of money for aid for Ukraine, and there's no other magical pot to dip into unless Congress passes a new funding package, US National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said on January the 3rd. So there's no more money indeed. Apparently, John Kirby suggests that there will be no additional drawdowns, so presidential drawdown authority, even though that's to Ukraine, even though over $4 billion in executable authority remains. I don't know whether that's like, we're not going to give that because we need something as an emergency going forward. And, when the shit hits the fan, maybe we can use that, but for the time being we need that big $61 billion package to go through Congress, and they are, I presume, working hard on it presently. The USA, however, so the good news is the USA did not find any misuse of military aid by Ukraine. So this is one of those talking points you hear from naysayers and also from Russia. It's just not true. This was stated by the coordinator of the National Security Council, John Kirby, quote, and we did not see any signs of large-scale corruption or abuses by the Ukrainian military. Okay, moving on to geopolitical things, and we'll return back to Slovakia now, circle back around. Russia launches attacks on Ukraine to terrorize civilians, said President of Slovakia, Zuzana Kaputova, very aptly named Susanna. Now, she is not the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Fico, and he's pretty much anti-Ukraine, so there will be a difference there. Quote, the best way to ensure Moscow's aggression does not continue into another year is to provide Ukraine with means needed to defend itself, she added. Absolutely spot on. But can she affect any change in what Slovakia do to aid Ukraine? I don't know. Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, has said he's convened a meeting of the Ukraine NATO Council after Russia's missile and drone attacks aimed at civilian infrastructure. So this is kind of reaction to that. We'll see what that brings about. The US has become the world's top liquefied natural gas exporter. This is really significant because again, this goes to the American naysayers who don't want to provide aid to Ukraine. You do realize the whole Ukraine war is benefiting the US in so many different ways, geopolitically, strategically, militarily, in terms of tax revenues and employment inside the US, in terms of the selling of arms, so on and so forth. But also, in the sanctioning of Russian hydrocarbons, people have been looking around the world at where are we going to get our gas from? We can't build gas pipelines very easily. So actually, the quickest way to get gas will be to turn it into liquid form and transport it on ships. And that's what the US has been able to do. And the US is a huge producer of natural gas, and they've taken over the mantle from Russia there in terms of gas export. So the US exported a record 91 million tons of LNG in 2023, beating Australia and Qatar. Shipments will keep rising in 2024 as new projects start. The US only started exporting shale gas as LNG in 2016. So this is a massive export increase over the last 10 years, 8 years really. And America is benefiting. So there are so many reasons why America should continue to support Ukraine, and there's just another one: an economic. Okay, it's fossil fuels. That's not cool, but if you want to persuade those American naysayers, then there's another argument to use. Ukraine, together with Westinghouse, has developed a new type of nuclear fuel. A Minister of Energy, Herman Helischenko, has said, quote, "Today the appropriate fuel is already functioning in Ukraine." So this is to replace. So Ukraine got together with the Westinghouse to replace Russian fuel for their nuclear stations, and they've created a new fuel apparently, and it's already functioning in Ukraine. Again, another benefit for these international corporations. This is the first time in the history of the world with the help of this type. In fact, we have already destroyed the monopoly of Rosatom on the nuclear fuel supply market. I mean, this will be significant for Europe. So then you can start sanctioning Rosatom, because in the moment they're not sanctioned because Europe needs the supply of fuel or the servicing on the nuclear power stations that Rosatom designed and constructed. Well, actually, if you can start replacing that supply and those services by other Western entities, then you can sanction Rosatom as well. It'd be really significant. Okay, Polish farmers are to resume the blockade of the Ukrainian border after a temporary reprieve. This is really frustrating. The Polish press agency has reported the planned resumption on January the 3rd, citing Roman Kondrał, the leader of the Polish farmers organization involved in the protest. In answer to that, Donald Tusk has vowed to, and I'm still arguing to toss about him online, has vowed to convince Polish carriers to halt the blockade. Quote, "My government and I will do everything to protect the Polish carriers' interests in today's unequal competition with the Ukrainian carriers." So he is having to, like we said previously, the previous government was having to do this as well. It's that fine line between supporting Ukraine and looking after your own. So you don't want to disadvantage your own truckers and farmers in light of Ukrainian cheap agricultural goods and cheap haulage. So there needs to be some solution to this. It isn't just rolling roughshod over your own people, right? So, quote, "I will be more effective in protecting Polish carriers when there is no blockade. Our arguments will be better heard when Poland is not blocking the border." Which sounds like he'd like to clear out the blockade and then sort out the issue with the haulage, the hauliers and the farmers. Polish official on reported Russian missile in Poland's airspace, quote, we cannot rule out provocation. So Warsaw and its partners cannot rule out international provocation when it comes to a Russian missile reportedly temporarily flying through Polish airspace during a mass attack against Ukraine on the 29th of December, said Polish security official Jacek Siriera, words, in an interview with TVN24. Now, apparently it went. So Siviera, the head of Poland's National Security Bureau, said the Polish authorities, quote, "have enough information to confirm that this missile was launched from Russian systems, and it's difficult to assume that the crossing of 40 kilometers, I didn't realize it went that far into Poland, 40 kilometers from the border was accidental." He said, I mean, goodness me, that's incredible. Right, the French Foreign Ministry has commented on the attacks on Belgorod on the 30th of December, stating that Ukraine is a state victim of aggression that acts in self-defense in accordance with Article 51 of the UN Charter. Russia can put an end to this conflict, it added. So France very strongly supporting Ukraine in what Ukraine did by taking out targets in Belgorod and then those missiles potentially getting shot down. I'm still unsure of exactly what hit and landed in the middle of Belgorod, but nonetheless, targets were hit in Belgorod, but also some things fell out the sky. And France is defending Ukraine in that. Now, Dmitry Medvedev spat out his anger about the French response. Now, if he really said, I mean, he's got a reputation for saying things while drunk before and being a little bit inconsistent or volatile, I think is the word. Did he say this? Like, it's incredible. We never liked the French, and now we're convinced of this. Written by the French Foreign Ministry, a strike on Belgorod using cluster munitions is the right to self-defense. And no report says Dimitri's drunk again. My goodness. Wow. We never liked the French. Well, if that's not good ammunition for France to say, okay, Russia, screw you. Let's help Ukraine even more, then I don't know what is. Okay. Georgia showing their support of Ukraine here. This is on a building. I don't know what the building is, but it's worth looking at. I think this shows you what sort of country Georgia is and how it is compromised by Russian influence. The Georgian Dream Party is running it, are becoming increasingly pro-Russian, yet population-wise, there's a lot of hatred or at the very least suspicion over Russia. So as you can see from this kind of mural on the side of this glass frontage on this building, 20% of Georgia is occupied by Russia. And this is the area that they're building that new, in fact, that dot there, I think is where it is. They're building that new massive port there to give them, again, naval access to Black Sea. Then it gives you an image of the guy that's now been immortalized in a statue, the guy that had to dig his own grave, and then he says Slavo-Ukrainian, they shot him. War crime there. Then there's one presumes a Georgian volunteer that is. So Georgia, I think, is the highest number of foreign fighters who have died inside Ukraine. And then it just lists some genocides committed by Russia. 1992, Gudauta. 1993, Gagrat and Sukhumi. And then 2022, Butcher. So it's connecting Georgia's plight with Ukraine's plight there. It's really powerful stuff. And likewise, Kazakhstan operator TV.com has stopped showing Russian TV channels. So Russia's influence in the whole region at large, Eurasia, Caucasus, is going backwards. They've shot themselves in the foot with this war. Now more than 10 channels of Russian television, including Channel 1, will not be broadcast in Kazakhstan. The company's management said it was gradually reducing the share of foreign channels and with news and information narrative. A representative of Channel 1 said that this decision is economic, not political. Earlier, Kazakhstan blocked the odious propaganda resources Tsargrad and Sputnik 24, which incited hostility. The first thing to do in a fight against an aggressor is to cut off the oxygen of their disinformation. I'm constantly banging on about disinformation. This is hugely important. Don't give them the access to your people and to spill lies, because that will translate into into pro-Russian sentiments in your own country that shouldn't by rights be there. Okay, Lukashenko amended the law concerning Belarus president to suit himself. He's doing broadly similar things to what Putin has done in Russia, which is to change the law so he can rule forever and not be done over once he's finished leading. So he made sure Lukashenko to avoid criminal liability even after losing power. According to the amendments signed by Lukashenko, the former president of Belarus will be inviolable, as well as members of his family. Quote, he can't be prosecuted for actions committed in connection with the exercise of his presidential powers, as well as detained in this regard, deprived of personal freedom, subjected to investigative and other procedural actions, the text of the law states. I don't know that a government can't get any change the law, though, however. I mean, but he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he's not seen as a war criminal dictator in much the same way as Putin. I mean, that's who he is, and he should be he should be held responsible for his actions. First batch of eggs finally this is my final piece, not that they finally got there. The first batch of eggs from Turkey has been delivered to Russia. We will see new videos of Russians in huge lines anxious to buy them. Will we see that? 316,800 eggs from Turkey have been delivered to Russia. It has been reported earlier. Rosstat reported that eggs have risen in price by 46.2% since the beginning of 2023. Eggs will be supplied to Russia from Azerbaijan and Iran. So there's a massive egg shortage. Again, it's a sign of the economic trials and tribulations of Russia. Okay, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Take care. Speak soon. Whew.